Activism on college campuses has been demonstrated for decades. Take the Vietnam War protests, for example, and today this is no different. However, at Yale University in 2015, two faculty members, who are responsible for shaping residential life on campus, tried to shut down minority voices with literally no business in the matter. The Yale administration told students to be mindful of their Halloween costume choices this year, and that students may be subject to academic penalty if they chose something racially inappropriate. The two faculty members then thought that they should take the matter upon themselves and claim that the university shouldn't have sent out that inclusivity-supporting message and that students should just work things out for themselves, and that is there no room for a child or young person to be a little bit obnoxious, a little bit inappropriate or provocative, or yes, offensive. In response, enraged students, minorities and allies alike, attacked the faculty members on the grounds that it was their entire job to make students feel safe and at home on campus, and that they had blatantly failed to do so when they told students that if you don't like a costume someone is wearing, look away. Minorities on campus felt unsafe in that, instead, racist ideals that have fostered systematic oppression all over the United States were being blatantly protected. The status of this issue is unresolved today, as many people disagree with the way the students went about protesting and counter-arguing, in turn causing many to disagree with the students entirely and allowing them to craft new opinions on activism across college campuses that are largely based on negative stereotypes and ideas. One of these people is the author of The New Intolerance of Student Activism, Connor Friedersdorf. Friedersdorf argues on behalf of the Yale faculty and defends their efforts on campus and against the angry student protesters. Friedersdorf is wrong for this in three ways. He brushes aside the importance of educating against cultural appropriation, his argument contains many logical errors that hinder his points, and he entirely discredits the importance of student activism on college campuses. The Yale faculty members responsible for writing the email overlooked the impacts of cultural appropriation and failed to acknowledge the simple fact that cultures, especially minority cultures, are not costumes. According to an NPR article specifically regarding cultural appropriation on Halloween, these costumes are dehumanizing, and according to Henu Josephine Tarrant, a New York-based artist and performer of the Ho-Chunk, Hopi, and Rappahannock tribes, it becomes exhausting. Expanding, Tarrant says, when you really look at it and you really study these tropes and stereotypes and what they mean and how they affect us as Native people, you know they're all rooted in historically violent past. When the white and historically unoppressed Yale professor decided that there was room for children to be offensive on a college campus, she forgot to address what the consequences of these offenses could be. These costumes, according to Tarrant, really are a reflection of how we look to non-Native Americans and what we are to them, a group of people who can be relocated, assimilated, and killed at will. Cultural appropriation does not just apply to indigenous cultures, however. Blackface, or darkening of the skin to match a particular person as a costume, typically a celebrity or character of a darker skin color, carries a long history of causing harm, and students may need our help in understanding why it can be hurtful and problematic. Yale students themselves wrote, "Your email equates old traditions of using harmful stereotypes and tropes to further degrade marginalized people, to preschoolers playing make-believe." The letter inaccurately summarizes, "This both trivializes the harm done by these tropes and infantilizes the student body to which the request was made." When Friedersdorf agrees with the Yale protesters, claiming the Yale administration is coddling students and that the professor's brilliant ideas to just look away are valid, he is contributing to the ignorance regarding cultural appropriation that has the potential to be entirely avoided, sparing many from hurtful and racist encounters. College students, or children as they are referred to in the faculty letter, need help to understand that there are consequences for their actions and that their extensive privilege must not be abused. Friedersdorf's article is full of fallacious arguments that make it hard for any audience to take him seriously. According to Argumentation and Critical Decision-Making by Reich, Sillers, and Peterson, a fallacy claim asserts that an argument must be rejected because it violates a significant rule of argumentation relevant to the appropriate decision-makers. The rules that Friedersdorf violated include hasty generalization. Hasty generalization can be defined as argument by generalization gone bad or reaching a conclusion based on insufficient evidence. The main account where Friedersdorf does this is when he claims that those who purport to speak for marginalized students at elite colleges sometimes expose serious shortcomings in the way that their black, brown, or Asian classmates are treated, and would expose flaws in the ways that religious students and ideological conservatives are treated too if they care to speak up for those groups. What he is saying is that by arguing for minority voices in such a way that your counter-arguer may not like, make these minorities look like they're representing the stereotypes the arguer is desperately trying to refute. Throughout the whole article, Friedersdorf is arguing that the way the Yale students went about their little protest entirely legitimizes their arguments because they disrespected those they had felt disrespected them first, and there's no evidence to support this notion. This is the privilege the Yale students are concerned about, that just because the white professors who overlooked the consequences of cultural appropriation carried out their points in a deemed respectful way, but the minority voices didn't, they are still systematically oppressed. As these students argued in their own counter letter, the real coddling is telling the privileged minority on campus that they do not have to engage with the brutal past that they are part of, the costumes they seek to wear. The last problem with Friedersdorf's argument is his counter-argument. Friedersdorf addresses the other side, assuming the refutation is the importance of cultural appropriation, as no one is incapable of invalidating your existence, full stop. Everyone is offended by things around them. This is the exact problem with shutting out student voices and protests on campuses. According to a Yale student from a Huffington Post article, the fact that the email was sent out under the assumption that students hadn't been speaking out all along was disrespectful, and a lot of people felt disrespected. These are things that have been personally affecting us for so long. It's coming from a place of pain, and it's coming from a place of hurt, and the entire community is hurting. By telling minority students who are already in a place of hurt that no one even has the power over you to really offend you, when they obviously already have, and have had their existences invalidated for years, examples slavery, the Trail of Tears, segregation, Japanese camps during World War II, etc., is plain and simple a really stupid and insensitive thing to say. Maybe no one has the power to offend your white male self, Connor Friedersdorf, but maybe take a seat and think about how existence invalidating it might feel to see a white person in blackface and have that blatant mockery look you right in the eyes, and know that there is staff at your very university that is encouraging the free reign of that behavior. When you yourself cannot understand these perspectives, then you probably shouldn't be telling minorities how to feel. Saying just look away from what offends you is how centuries of imperialist leaders have silenced and taken advantage of other cultures and consequently shaped modern-day racism. Protesting what is not right should never be something that is silenced on college campuses to make sure that ideas like these are fostered and harmonized. In this speech, I have refuted Friedersdorf's arguments on the grounds that cultural appropriation should not be brushed aside for the sake of minority safety, especially on a college campus that wants to promote diversity and inclusion. The fallacies in Friedersdorf's argument ultimately take away from his credibility, and the importance of student activism for both the students and political America cannot be forgotten or trivialized. These issues are important, especially on our own campuses. That is one that it prides itself over its diversity and inclusion, and should always be kept in check from those who identify themselves from within that community.